I've always been of the opinion that there is no such thing as normal relations between India and Pakistan. They're either abnormal or ultra-abnormal or sort of warlike. The last 2 years, 2015, was bad, but 2016 was much worse, and perhaps the worst year since 2001. So quite frankly, we are in a very complex situation from which there is no way out, at least for the time being, as I see it. Now, the tensions have really been caused by India. If we want to be objective, I mean, there are some problems on our side, but frankly, if you were to catalogue only the statements made by Modi before he became Prime Minister during his election campaign, after that, and all the statements made by his principal ministers of Foreign Affairs, Defense, Finance, and Home, you will see that most of the negative, highly strident statements came from them, and Pakistan more or less simply reacted to them. So this is the basic thing, and a lot of people give great credence and importance to Modi's invitation to Nawaz Sharif in Delhi and also his visit to Lahore. I think these were very smart public relation moves in order to convince the international community that India is sincere in talking to Pakistan, but somehow Pakistan has not been able to overcome the issue of terrorism, which they very often use. If we look at it this way, what are the problems between India and Pakistan? There are disputes which have come down historically. Kashmir is a dispute, Siachen is a dispute, Siri Creek is a dispute, but I don't consider issues like people-to-people contacts or trade or issues relating to as disputes. These are issues, these are irritants, and they are amenable to solution provided there is goodwill, and provided there is goodwill and there's a kind of a political, shall we say, support for it. Now, I think this is the crux of the matter. On the Indian side, of course, they have come up with the question of terrorism that India says Pakistan conducts across the line of control, or not only in Kashmir but also all over India. There are issues, but what I would say is that if both countries, the leadership, they have the political will to sit down, then these issues can be discussed. We should not brush away India's concerns. We should not brush away because from their viewpoint, whether it's a ruse or whether it's just an excuse for India to use terrorism in order to bash Pakistan, or there may be genuine concerns also. My experience with India over the years is that they don't want to discuss Kashmir seriously. There have always been talks about talk. If you look at 2001 onwards, apart from the back channel, what was really happening officially between India and Pakistan? Really talks about talks. So India has been following this strategy with Pakistan for a long time. Now, we are in a difficult situation because we haven't been able to come up with a clear narrative on how we are dealing with the issue of terrorism. Clearly, India has been using very strong repressive measures to bludgeon the Kashmiris into submission. Now, this is not acceptable, not only to Pakistan, or even there are voices even in India that think that this is not the way India should be doing. But I think Indians are very clear in their mind that they need to keep Pakistan, as I say, on the hop, of keep Pakistan engaged on the LOC, but continue with their repression inside Kashmir. I think this is the bottom line, as I understood. Well, it's very curious that after General Riaz Sharif left on the 29th of November, the LOC has sort of quietened down. I mean, there's still things are happening, but it's not the way it was. It was kind of warlike, and you know, this whole idea about the surgical strike, which was really, quite frankly, a farce. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, in our engagement with our Indian friends, we did underline this thing, that surgical strike is too serious a matter, because it's escalation. And India's approach was, I think the effort was to entrap Pakistan into escalating the situation so that, you know, they could come with a heavier response. I think that was roughly what they were trying to do. But I think Pakistan was sensible, that our response was measured. But it may have been equal, but measured. But we didn't go overboard, like they moved from small arms to medium arms to heavier guns. So I think that from that point of view, Pakistan has followed a very sensible approach. But for 2017, quite frankly, I don't see how India will be able to control the situation in Kashmir. It's still very much very serious. There's curfew in some areas even now. Thousands of people come out on Fridays, and you know, whenever there are what you call hartals. So, and they don't really have a policy other than using force, other than deploying you know, more troops, other than using you know, all their non-military organizations like you know, the CRPF and all these. These are all some of the, and their intelligence organizations. They're very Gestapo-like in many ways. And their whole objective is to break the will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I don't see that happening. But they will keep Pakistan engaged. They will keep Pakistan off balance. And let's not forget that India is also facing 3 or 4 very critical elections. But the critical elections for Prime Minister Modi are UP and Punjab. And I think there Pakistan is a factor, but I wouldn't say the conditioning factor. There may be other reasons that India is basically following a very strident policy towards Pakistan. At least I'm quite clear in my mind that India has had a long-term strategy to soften Pakistan from the inside. It's just that now it's become more assertive. It's become more assertive because the National Security Advisor, Doval, he talks about his offense-defense policy, take the war to Pakistan, take the problems to Pakistan, keep them off balance, keep them destabilized, keep them weak, weaken their economy. I think this basically is their approach. So, well, to sort of sum up this part, I would say 2017 may be slightly different from 2016, but it's not really, I don't see much engagement really taking place. But Pakistan and India, quite frankly, have no choice. We have to talk because the other road is far too dangerous. Apart from the fact that this is the most heavily deployed region of the world, I mean, militarily speaking, on both sides, they are both nuclear armed. And there's no, shall we say, reaction time. How much can you, what kind of a decision can you take in 4 or 5 minutes? I'm not suggesting for a moment that Pakistan should exercise the nuclear option or India should exercise the nuclear. It's too dangerous. I mean, it means annihilation for both countries. So I don't know what our political leaders are really thinking. It seems to me that the major countries in the world, particularly the United States, of course, President Trump is a great unknown for the time being. It's not clear what his policy is going to be towards Pakistan or towards India or South Asia as a whole. But from whatever statements that he has made so far, they've been far from coherent. They've been more in the nature of tweets or off-the-cuff remarks. But the main thing is that we need to prepare ourselves for what I would consider American attitudes towards South Asia, particularly Pakistan, and they may change. And this is what we should be really preparing for. And I think the Indians are, in my opinion, are counting on on getting some kind of support from the United States in their sort of India-Pakistan equation. China is going to be very cautious. I mean, that's typical Chinese policy. China and India are adversaries. So China knows that there are limits to whatever influence that they may have with India. And India is not likely to listen to China. That's the way I look at it. On the other hand, China has more influence with Pakistan. And let me tell you, historically, they have been giving us very sound advice only when we ask. Now on CPEC, I mean, Indians are not at all enthused or happy about what is happening vis-a-vis China and Pakistan. They will try and create problems, they will create obstacles. They've already registered their, shall we say, pro forma protest about, the CPEC passing through Gilgit-Baltistan, and that this is part of the integral part of India rather than Pakistan. So I think they will create problems. So we should anticipate this. I think 2 years ago I was one of the first persons who commented on this thing, that we should anticipate trouble in Gilgit-Baltistan. So I don't think the Chinese are going to step in a big way. They will certainly want to see this CPEC to succeed, because it's a major investment. This is a flagship project from their viewpoint, as part of the One Belt, One Road, the visionary approach that President Xi Jinping has taken